to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic week wherever you are in this planet of ours. For our US viewers, I know it's been your Memorial Day weekend, and I know how emotionally that can affect a number of people. You know, whether you've had somebody that's been affected by it, that's been in the services that didn't come home, or just that you're very patriotic and really feel the emotion and the energy that it surrounds a specific time like Memorial Day. Every country has their own type of Memorial Day or Memorial Days throughout a calendar year, and it's always a very moving time. I've noticed here in Australia, people are becoming more and more involved in these events as time goes by. And that's a good thing. We should never, ever forget the atrocities of war and the amount of lives that get lost and the people that are affected for many, many years to come after it. You know, even for the veterans that do come home, a lot of them have ongoing health and emotional issues that last the rest of their life. And we should never take it lightly, the sacrifices that men and women make around the world to keep this planet of ours safe. On the other note that I think we should mention this week, there's been a lot of weather events around the world, but particularly our hearts and our prayers go out to the people in Papua New Guinea who've had tremendous landslides there, and there's the death toll is rising by the minute. So we can only hope that things start to sort of settle and the weather starts to calm down a little bit so that they can rescue the people that are still alive and trapped. Anyway, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. And the Simply Tarot card of the week this week was the very first card that I designed in the tarot set. And this is actually my hand on the card with a piece of frangipani from my garden. So it's called the Ace of Wands. It's the card of new beginnings, of birth, new ideas and creation. Now, every time this card comes out, doesn't mean you're going to have a baby. It just means it can mean the birth of a new idea. It is new beginnings. It's new opportunities. It's time to sort of get your creative hat out of the wardrobe or the closet and sort of say to yourself, what can I bring into this world that maybe is fresh, that's brand new, that has a different perspective? What can I do to bring a more creative way to my life than what's previously been there? It's time now for new opportunities. It's a very, very positive card. It always reminds me of the sunlight and the sunrise and, you know, the sunrise over the ocean. If you're lucky enough to live near the ocean like I am, that you get to see such beautiful, magnificent sunrises, and it's the new opportunity. The new day is dawning. So if you look at this card as the new day dawning in your life, now everything's possible. You know, there's nothing that we can't put our minds to. There isn't a time that we can't change our thinking and our attitude and to become more positive. I always look at this card as the card of positivity, of telling me to get out of bed with a renewed smile on my dial and start to look at the world through a different lens, that, you know, beautiful, positive things can sort of happen. So this week we've got a fairly big week astrologically. It seems to be a big week every week astrologically recently, but this week we've had the shift of Jupiter has moved into Taurus. It spent the last 12 months sitting in Aries and sort of really revving everything up for the Aries people and sort of creating opportunities out of nowhere for them. It's now the Taurus turn. Beg your pardon, it's been in Taurus for 12 months, not Aries. And it's now the time of the Gemini. So it's a really positive time now for Jupiter just entering into Gemini. I keep saying back into Taurus, but it's just gone into Gemini. It's a time where Geminis can really sort of start to shine. Now, Jupiter doesn't actually rule Gemini. Jupiter actually rules Sagittarius, the opposite sign to Gemini. So when I'm talking about Jupiter here in Gemini, yes, it is going to overflow to the other air signs and also Sagittarius, but predominantly it's connected to Gemini. It's really affecting what Geminis can achieve in this next 12 months. So look at this as your opportunity to shine. If you want to get up off the couch and create something different, or strive to get a different job, or open a new business, or move house, or do whatever, you've got the opportunity here with Gemini, with Jupiter in Gemini, allowing you to expand your horizons. Now, you also have to be very aware that sometimes when Jupiter first enters a sign, it gives us almost a false sense of security. It can be that, oh, well, I can take the world by storm, I can do this and I can do that, and the bravado kicks in without any great planning. Jupiter's not the world's greatest planner, but Jupiter sort of shows you that the sky is the limit. Anything's possible. So make sure that you do it in a deliberate, calculated way as well. well. Don't just go in this with all this bravado. I've got all these amazing ideas, but I've got no business plan to back it up, and then be disappointed if somebody won't give you the funding. You've got to make sure that you're carefully prepared for these things too. Jupiter just creates the opening, then you've got to be the one to do the hard work that's backed up behind it. So it is a very, very positive time, a very exciting time. We'll possibly see some new innovative ideas come about. We'll see people have maybe a slightly different way in the way that they communicate too, because Gemini is all about communication. It's always about what's going on in the local environment, flitting from one situation to another. So with Jupiter here, I'm expecting that maybe we might start to see some changes in the way local media outlets report the news or bring us the information that we need to know on a local basis. You may start to see a shift in the way that they report something that's been in the news in the news cycle for quite some time. So be aware of that. It's not that they've necessarily changed their mind. Maybe there's been new information that's come to light. There's a different way of approaching it, or a different way of delivering the same content over and over again, which they seem to like to do, until we get sick of listening to it or watching it. So be aware of that. There might just be a sort of a shift in that way. It also can spill across to politics and things like that, or, issues of a nation or a country. Be aware that there may be some shifts in policy or the way that people approach things. If you're heading into an election locally, or a state election or a local election, make sure you really listen to what's being said. Don't just switch off because it's the same old boring dribble. Sometimes we do really need to pay attention and vote with our feet and use our vote constructively, not just because it's the way we've always voted. So moving away from politics. So Jupiter is currently holding hands or conjunct Venus, the planet of love and affection, or the things that we love to do in our lives, which is also conjunct or holding hands the Sun in Gemini. So happy birthday to all the Geminis. It's a really important time at the moment where you've got opportunities there to really expand your life out, look at new opportunities, look at new things that you want to do, but make sure that there's a little bit of love sprinkled in there. Make sure it's something that you're really passionate about. Don't just do it because somebody else has suggested to you that this is a great idea and it's a good fit for you. You have to make sure that you really have the passion that is evoking this as well. If you're going to start something new or step into a new job or something like that, make sure that it's something that's going to make your heart sing, because that's really, really important to gain the maximum out of what Jupiter can bring into your life in the next 12 months. We have to really make sure that we are connected to this on an emotional level, and it's what we really want to do. So it's a very, very positive time. So we also sort of have the flow from these three conjunctions, or known as a stellium in astrology, and it's going to be affecting the other air signs as well. It's affecting Libra and Aquarius and the opposite sign of Sagittarius. It will flow on a little bit, but in a lot less degree, to the other remaining 8 signs. It's not saying that, if you're a Scorpio, that you can't be having some great brainwaves or some great inspiration. It's saying to you, just make sure that you're really listening to your inner voice, that you're not just going off doing something because that idea flashed into your head and that's good, I'll grab hold of that and we'll make that work. It's not always about that. We've got to see whether or not there's an opportunity to expand things out. So we're moving on to the next area of astrology, which was jumping out at me today before the show, and that's the emphasis that's still sitting in Aries. Now, the Aries energy is always about me first, and me first. And Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, it's where we look for the beginnings in life, where we look for the beginnings in somebody's chart, because it is the first sign of the zodiac. Now, this affects everybody, but predominantly it's affecting the fire signs first. It's affecting Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra. Then it's going to wash over to the other remaining 8 signs in a more gentle sort of approach. So we've got Mars, the planet of action and opportunity, the one that motivates us to get out of bed of a morning, get up off the couch, is conjunct or holding hands Chiron. Now, Chiron is not a planet. Chiron is where we look in the chart for what we term as the wounded healer, what we're bringing in from a past life situation. What are we bringing in that needs to be healed or sorted out in this lifetime? So it can be very confronting. It can be something that we sort of look at and think, oh, that's all too hard, I'll do that tomorrow or next week, or put it off. It's something that we need to sort of look at and say to ourselves, this is something that's really important. If it's coming up, if it's bothering me, if it's being presented to me again, then I need to deal with it. Now, a lot of people have been inboxing me and asking me what on earth's going on. You know, Amanda, I'm having all these issues, these flashbacks to things that happened in my childhood, that happened in my 20s and 30s, and I don't understand. I felt I'd done all my clearing and letting go and all those sort of things. Why are these things happening? Why is it sort of like a PowerPoint presentation going flick, 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 and then all of a sudden somebody throws on the DVD and we get the longer version of it? This is all part of Chiron trying to heal what we thought we had healed. And maybe there's a fragment or two there, or maybe we need to come back and look at it in the more mature eyes that we've got today than what we did when we dealt with it, say 20 years ago, when we dealt with it the best way we could then maybe it needs to come back for one last look so that we can finally release ourselves of that and say, right, that issue was finally dealt with. There's no timetable. You know, a lot of people in the new age psychic sort of healing industry talk about, oh, we've got to let go of things. You know, don't forget to let go and don't forget to process this and don't forget to process that. We are human. We can only process or emotionally let go of or deal with to the best of our ability at that time. It doesn't mean that it's complete and it doesn't mean that it's incomplete. We do the best that we can do with the tools and the knowledge and our know how and what we're able to release at that current time in our lives on that timeline. That doesn't say that it won't come back in 2 weeks' time, 5 years' time, 20 years' time, and we have to do another layer of releasing. So don't look at, oh, I've already dealt with that. Why is that coming back? That's ridiculous. It's coming back for a reason because we need to give it a little bit more airtime. We need to release it. We need to sort of look at it in that way that, okay, oh, yeah, that's why that happened. Now I see it more clearly. Now I understand the lesson behind that, or sometimes I don't understand the lesson. It's still sort of as vague and foreign to me as it was when it happened, and that's okay too. There's, you know, some things we don't get an answer to. Sometimes the answer is there is no answer. So there's no right or wrong in how we let go of deal with things. This affects all the 12 signs, but as I said, predominantly the 3 fire signs and the opposite sign of Libra are the ones that are most affected by this. Then we have Mercury, the planet of communication. No, he's not going retrograde, he's going forward for his range, is conjunct or holding hands Uranus in Taurus. Now, Mercury likes to sometimes play a few tricks. Mercury also likes us to look at communication, whether it's written, whether it's verbal, whether it's in whatever form it is, to make sure that we look at it very clearly. Sometimes we get so obsessed with our form of communication or our version of events is the only right way. Now, with Mercury here, conjuncting or holding hands with Uranus, it's asking us to look at it from maybe another angle. Don't become stubborn, pig-headed and bogged down with this is the only way, or this is the only form of communication, or this version of the truth is the only version of the truth because it's my truth and it's got to be right. We've got to sort of look at the other person's version of their story. Their story is equally as important as ours. It's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's somewhere in the middle, or somewhere a combination of all of this is the truth, or really what happened, or really what should happen. We can't just take it for granted that because we've said it's true, that that's it, that everybody's going to believe us. If you become that stubborn and rigid with that, then Uranus is going to come along like a bolt of lightning and say, well, hang on a minute, you haven't looked at it from this angle. I'm going to show you that there's another side, or 2 or 3 or 4 sides to this situation. You can't just be the one that says this is the way it's going to be. So if you've got any important communication, and I'm going to go through the signs now, is Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, and the opposite side of Scorpio. If there's any really important communication or official communication or legal communication going on in the next week particularly, or the next few weeks, make sure that you're being flexible enough to be able to listen to the other person's point of view or see it from someone else's interpretation. Don't just become bogged down with the fact that your way is the only way and your way is the only truth. It may be your truth, and that's good to stand by your truth because you believe that it is the truth, but you've also got to be open enough to look at it from another person's perspective. If you become so bogged down with it and very Taurian like, very stubborn, pig-headed, and this is the only way it is, then you're going to find Uranus is going to come along here and he's going to be like a bolt of lightning. He's going to strike the ground many, many times, and he's going to sort of do it in a way that it sort of rocks you at your foundation until you become unhinged and sort of maybe then say things that aren't true, or become overly emotional, or don't handle the situation in the correct correct manner. So please be very aware of that. It is a very, very powerful conjunction that is happening, and it's not something that's going to move quickly. It's going to move slowly over the next month. It's going to be something that you really need to be very, very aware of. So, the astrology report is not about putting the fear of God into you. It's about hoping to help you understand the really strong energies that are happening right as this show goes to air of what's actually happening in our universe. It's what's happening. It's like if I was to take a photograph, this is the photograph of where the planets are at the moment and how they affect us. So it's good that we get this opportunity to share this insight with you each week on the show so that you can sort of better prepare you for the week ahead. So let's change the pace of the show a little bit and let's talk with Mimi in Melrose in Massachusetts in the USA. Are you there, Mimi? Hello, Mimi.
I'm sorry.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
Well, I had a lot of things happen in my life. I lost a lot of things. And I'm trying to deal with that, and it's not very successful.
No, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Mimi. Look, it's hard sometimes when we lose possessions or we lose people or a combination of all of the above to be able to sort of try and bounce back like a rubber ball, to bounce back to where you were before. That's not always what the lesson is or what we're meant to do. I think you need to stop being so tough on yourself and just sort of giving yourself a little bit of leeway there and saying, well, look, I'm doing the best that I can do under the circumstances. I haven't had time to really catch my breath and regroup and look at what the next steps are or where I should be sort of focusing my energy. Sometimes the lesson is to just sit still, to just let, things just organically start to percolate up around us and then sort of get our strength from that instead of trying to force things or make everything right. And it's one of those flaws that we as human beings think that our lives have always got to be full and we've always got to be busy and we've always got to be in control of something and doing something and making sure that it's right. We lose that art of being able to just be and say, okay, all right, life's dealt me this and I've just got to chill out for a little while. Let's see how things unfold. What they are showing me, Mimi, is that from August on this year, things are going to start to unravel for you in a much, much more positive sort of way. So I want to sort of suggest to you between now and then, if you can, just be like a log. Let's just float down the river. Let's just go with the twists and the turns of the river and not fight it. Just flow along with everything. I'm not saying that you can't avoid or put off making decisions, but unless it's absolutely necessary or urgent, then I would just let it slide for a little while and give yourself a little bit of a chance to have a rest and regroup your energy again, because it's really important. You're soul tired. You're not just physically and emotionally tired, maybe you're soul tired as well. And when we get soul tired, that's when we bring on illnesses and things like that, because we've exhausted everything that was in our reserve tank. And I don't want to see that happen. It's not very often on the show because we have such a limited time that somebody comes through from the other side to me, but I've got a woman coming through from the other side who was exceptionally well groomed, somebody that I feel that was very close to you, somebody that you're missing terribly. And she's saying to me, she's put her arms around you and she's giving you the biggest hug and she's saying, it's going to be okay. There, Mimi, it's going to be okay. I'm not sure who she was or how she's connected to you. I just know that there's a very strong presence there. And she was pushing her way through to say, please tell her that I'm here and everything's going to be okay. Can you relate to who that is, Mimi?
No. Is it somebody that's deceased?
Yeah, it is somebody that's passed over. I felt she was female. She didn't show me a physical presence, so I can't describe her to you. But to me, she was somebody that you had immense respect for, somebody that you looked up to, somebody that always seemed to bring the sunshine into your life. So I'm assuming from that she was older than you, like a grandmother's age maybe. It's just that energy that she's sort of sharing with me, but she keeps showing me that she's cradled you in her arms and she's gonna help you. She's making everything all right. You've just got to surrender a little bit, just let go a little bit and allow her to do her magic. I felt she was, how can I put it? Very, very honest sort of person. People went to her for advice, but not always did they get the answer that they were expecting. If she thought you needed a good dressing down, you got it. She was very straight to the point. but I felt also
I
two
know who
people
she
loved
is.
her. And so you can
I
relate to
know
who
who
that
she
is.
is.
Yeah. Well, she's sending you all the pink hearts, the flowers, the everything. She's there with you every step of the way, and she keeps telling me how proud she is of you. So please just go with that and know that things are going to be okay, Mimi. That's where we've got to leave it, but you're on the right track, sweetie. Keep going. We're going to talk with Marie in Tampa in Florida. Are you there, Marie? Maria. No, Marie.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Marie?
Um, I don't know if I have a maybe. Okay, let's go love life, husband.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that. So, are we looking for a new love, or do we have somebody that's already there? If so, just their first initial would be great.
No, nobody. Just new.
Okay,
What's coming?
right. That's fine. All right, let's have a little look around for some new love. Really interesting. The first thing that they're sharing with me, Marie, is the fact that there's been a lot of endings, change, and transformation in your life. But I'm also going to say that you finally sorted out the type of relationship that you want. Many people say to me, I don't want this and I don't want that, and I really know what I want now. No, you really mean it. You know exactly what you want, and you know exactly what you don't want. And that's a good place to be, because it means now that you're not just going to take somebody for the sake of having someone come into your life because they're being presented to you. They've got to tick all the boxes. And, if they don't tick enough boxes, then, move aside. And that's a good thing. They're showing me from around about September, there's a tall, dark-headed man coming into your life. I'm going to say the hair's a little bit long by today's standards. Well, I suppose anybody that's got hair has got long hair today. The hair is sort of, not long. It's not down to his shoulders, but it's longer than most people are wearing it today. Little bit of a wave or a kick up at the end of the hair. He's got the most beautiful hazily greeny coloured eyes, and he's got a nice smile, a decent sort of man. What I would describe as a salt of the earth sort of man. Now, Marie, you might be able to appreciate what I'm going to say. Years ago, when a man walked into a room that had a presence, you felt it.
Yes.
This man got that energy. He walks into the room and you feel it. And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's not trying to be bossy or take over everything. It's just who he is. There's a decency about him. There's a strength there. It's a nice change to meet somebody that's got some morals and has, manners and things like that. I know the two of you are going to get on really well. I can see lots of laughter. I can see lots of talking. But at the same time, I see a good, solid relationship building, built on trust and love and respect and, really listening to the other person. And you can't believe this man's single and has been single for such a long time. I'm talking about years, because you look at him and you think, well, there's nothing I'd change. You're almost perfect. You're good looking. You've got a good sense of humor. You're decent sort of person, you know there's nothing there that you could sort of say, oh, gee, I wish you'd change that about you. There might be a few little odd irritating things, but I mean, nobody's 100% perfect, but this man's pretty close to it. And it's interesting because he looks at you in the same way and he can't believe you're single. How could nobody have snapped you up? He keeps saying things as you get a lot closer. Gee, I wish I'd met you when I was in my teenage years. How our lives would have been so different. But maybe, just maybe, if you had, then maybe the connection might have been too powerful and you might have destroyed each other because you weren't ready for that really intense, right sort of love. Do you know what I mean? Like where you don't need to try and tie each other up or tie each other up in knots. You're happy for the other person to succeed and achieve, and you're happy to sort of take second place if need be to let them shine. Well, maybe if you had met in teenage years or early 20s, that would have been a little bit too much of a power struggle. So, look, I always believe things happen at precisely the right time, and this is the right time for you. And he makes me laugh because he turns around and says to me, I'm not much of a cook. And yet, he gets all the pots and pans out in the kitchen and he can create something out of nothing. I wish I could cook so badly like he does. You know what I mean? I have to think about it. And so do you probably. But he just sort of, oh, well, this is what we've got. We've got tomatoes and eggs and this and that and the other. And he throws this thing together and you think, wow, couldn't have got that at a restaurant. This is even better still, But he enjoys cooking, and I think that's one of the things that has kept him level over the years. That he's had the money to go out to dinner every night if that's what he wanted to do, but he's always found that when he's been stressed out or he's had a bad day or even if he's had a good day, he likes to come home and rustle those pots and pans and make a creation. And that's sort of his
Mm,
little bit of therapy. So, look, you won't argue about him cooking, I'm sure.
I will not.
No,
Sure.
you'll be happy to wash the pans up. Look, I can't fault this guy. He's just got such a nice energy. Um, I found one thing that he's not good at. He hasn't got a very good singing voice. He thinks he has. It's okay if he doesn't share it with the public, is the best way I'll put that.
Mm.
But he's a lovely man, and I look forward to sort of hearing from you again in the future, Marie, as you share with us here on the show that how amazing this man is. So this is where we've got to leave, Marie. The half hour of the show goes very quickly every week, and I know that that many people sort of say, "Gee, I wish it was longer," but look, it's adequate. It's what it's meant to be, and it's really interesting that we get to work with so many amazing people around this planet of ours. And I really do sort of want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This week, I want to leave you with a song that a lot of people probably won't remember this one, and I'm really showing my age now. It was brought out in the late 60s, but it's a song that I think even has the right words for today, and it's by the late amazing Billy Preston, and the song is called "That's the Way God Planned It." Now, I think it's still very inspirational. It has the right message even for today. I think we all need to get back to our roots a little bit and look at that sort of, things are planned for us, that we aren't in control of everything. We think we are. I believe we have free will. We can get to an intersection. We can either turn right or left, but it's already been predetermined. We already intuitively go the direction we're meant to go. And that's where I'm going to leave you this week and say that's the way God planned it. Until next week, bye for now.